Good evening, and thank you for joining us at our second public forum. I am Catherine Gallagher, and delighted to share with you some resources for our students and families in Lamoille Valley. A little bit of a change to the agenda. Wendy Savory, our curriculum director, is ill and will not be able to share her part of the Title I compact with you. But we do have our partners from Healthy Lamoille Valley, and they are here to talk to us about programs and services for students and families. And then we will hear from Deb Clark, our business manager, about our 3-year recovery program using our ESSER funds. And you've heard a bit about that before, but you'll hear about it tonight in more detail. I know there are a lot of things that people want to discuss, but we will only be discussing what is on the agenda for tonight. We've received emails since the first public forum about interests that people have, and so our third public forum in January will likely showcase small local businesses in Lamoille, probably in the form of stands, because we have 15 interested businesses thus far who would like to come and talk to us about what they do and how they got to where they are, and what opportunities might exist for our students and families. So I'd also like to thank GMATV for streaming this for us tonight, and again, thank you for joining us either virtually or in person. And now I would like to introduce Allison Link and Brian Duda from Healthy Lamoille Valley. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just get the presentation back up. There we go. And technology works. Again, I'm Allison Link from Healthy Lamoille Valley. I'm the Policy and Community Outreach Coordinator. And Brian Duda, our Youth Substance Prevention Coordinator, is also with us. And unfortunately, Jessica Bickford, our coordinator, who's actually very connected to Lamoille North because of her family, she's unable to be here. Her kids are under the weather. So we are here, and thanks so much for including us and for partnering over so much time and deepening the relationship between Healthy Lamoille Valley, which is a program of the Lamoille Family Center, and Lamoille North. It's really been amazing. The projects that we've worked on together have such a range from signage for the Cricket Hill trails to we had a mini grant series that was last year through our 3450 initiative, which I won't get into, but that supported the Cricket Hill signs. It's to come also supports the Waterville Elementary School had a partnership with the library to have a story walk. We've had a student here who has worked on part of the EPIC program, who worked on disc golf. We have an upcoming coaches collaborative connection. There are just so many things that we've worked on together, and some of the ones that have been more in depth have included some of the projects we'll talk about tonight, like Live Your Why, which you'll hear about a little bit later, and what an incredible partnership here on that initiative. So Healthy Lamoille Valley, who are we? We are the Lamoille Valley's Youth Substance Misuse Prevention Coalition. And so you can see here our mission. We are a coalition, and really focus on that. We're a coalition of individuals and community organizations working collaboratively to reduce youth substance misuse and encourage youth to make substance-free, healthy choices. And we do that on so many different levels. We know that there are many opportunities to engage in substance prevention work. Mostly, though, we are on the systems level, the community level, and you'll hear a little bit more about that. And you can see the towns that we support in the region. So you can see it's more than Lamoille County. We extend into the Lamoille Valley, Greater Hardwick area as well. So that's a big range of and also of districts. And again, the partnership with Lamoille North has been really growing so much deeper over the years. So just to start out, and I know hello the people out there in the online world and the people in the room, I guess on Zoom and in the room, we want to just, shout out, or you can, in the chat box, you can let us know. I hear there's about a 20-second delay, but we want to have a little bit of conversation about what are our common goals for our kids and teens. You know, some folks who are in the room, have kids who are just entering the system, some who have already left the school system, right? So, but what are our common goals for our kids and our teams? Just if you can say one word even, or I'll start. Resilience. Anyone else? So a line or a word? Curiosity, if you couldn't hear. I see some nods. What else? Drive and ambition. What else? Independence. Yeah. Autonomy. Anyone in the chat able to get something in there yet? So as we think about it, and just let it settle in, is to really consider what are our goals for our kids, and that's even personally, and our collective children and youth. What is our goal? Because they are the future next generations. What is our goal for them? This expands into even, what are our goals for our communities? What's our vision for how we want to live in our communities, and how we embrace our youth to be able to help them develop and to help develop our communities into the future. So accomplishing all of, just even mentioning the goals that we mentioned here, think about how do we accomplish these? There are so many different strategies that we use. And also then there's how do we know that they're effective? But if we just think about some of the strategies we use as families, as parents, as caregivers, as teachers, as educators, as administrators, what are some strategies we use to accomplish the goals we have for our youth? Anyone out? Open communication. Great, and we'll get to that as well. What others? And feel free in the chat box to also add for those people who are online in the virtual world. Sense of belonging. How do we create that sense of belonging and community?
Exposure to options.
Yes, exposure to options. That there's more than just what you see. Thank you, Jessica. Listening. And that goes along with communication. And I heard from thank you so much. So yes, and there's so many things that we can all be doing, but it really takes a whole community. We're not in it alone. So we can think about in our work, we relate to substance prevention by thinking about increasing protective factors and decreasing risk factors. And so when we talk about protective factors, anyone have an idea what that means? What does it mean, protective factor? I see Brian looking up, but you're welcome to. What does it mean, a protective factor? Why would we want to increase protective factors for our youth? We want to help create that support and that buffer from any negative outcomes or negative or risk that might come to them. How do we help to protect them? What are those protective factors we put in place in our communities, in our homes, in our relationships? So you might think about what are some of these protective factors for youth that help them reduce the negative potential risks and outcomes in their lives, right? And have all of those goals that we really hope for them. So it might just be good nutrition or coming to school, right? Physical activity. It might also mean, especially when we talk about substance prevention and protective factors related, one caring adult in a young person's life can mean all the difference on so many factors. And then we talk about other protective factors like community level protective factors, like what are the laws and the norms in the community that help to protect youth from making choices that might be unhealthy for them. So just think about it's a whole range of what protective factors can really look like. And then we talk about reducing risk factors. So risk factors are the things, and you can imagine, that that might lead to negative outcomes. And especially with substance misuse or substance use for youth, we think about risk factors like the perception of harm of substances that parents or adults in the community have. When we see that parents have a low perception of harm of substances, that often leads to, and it's a direct relationship, to higher youth use rates. When parents think it's not as harmful, youth are likely to use more. So that's one example of a risk factor. What might other risk factors be? I'll take from the group, and Jessica, feel free to chime in. It's great that you're able to do that. Sometimes we see risk factors or even peer groups. We see that sometimes we may think that a sports team, for example, is a protective factor. But in theory, that specific environment might be a risk factor. So we have to think about these things with nuance and really understand what protective factors and risk factors are about. Because it may appear to be a protective factor, but really when we look closely, it might be a risk factor. So we look at things with this, holding these two pieces, increasing protective factors and decreasing our risk factors in the community. And when we're working towards all of this, each of us as individuals and within our coalition, we are not alone. And so we're here tonight to share a few resources. We work on so many projects, and we encourage you to look us up on Facebook and go on our website, healthylamoillevalley.org. But a few of the resources tonight. So you may know Coach Marvin, who's also Dr. Katie Marvin, who helped with this initiative. This is a resource that I've shared with the folks here. If you are at home watching, this is something that you can get from central office, and it will be there along with our other resources. And it's a brochure that is really trying to help parents, families, see how to show youth that they matter. Because in our community, we've seen some data. We see data related to the risk factors and the protective factors, and some of that data is here. We're not going to talk about data today, but when we understand what our youth are dealing with and what they're coping with, then we are able to have more of that understanding to relate to them and to understand their situation. So then this is explaining some of the local data, but then saying, how can we connect regularly to build positive relationships, just like you were saying over here about that communication. And what are the resources for that? And then not just connecting with our youth, but connecting with our parents, connecting with other parents and caregivers. How do we establish those relationships to deepen the community of support for our youth? So this is a great new resource that actually is going out all through our pediatric centers and medical centers, but also through our schools. So if you're interested, please get one of these and take extras, share them around in the community. So some other ways to get in touch with us. Healthy Lamoille Valley, you can see on Facebook, Twitter, sign up for the newsletter. We have lots of info sheets here as well with youth resources, and you can pick these up as well at the central office. In general, the types of things that we offer. And then we have a couple of alerts. One is to educate folks who don't know a lot about vape devices, to really learn what they are, what they look like, and how to notice them. Sometimes we've heard from even teachers and parents, I didn't even know that my child was vaping because they had no idea that it looked like a small thumb drive or looked like a pen. Then we also have another resource that's talking about cannabis and THC products and talking about really the importance of how you can protect youth related to having those in the home, if they are in the home. So next, again, to kind of wrap my part up, being connected with our young people and those relationships are so valuable. Getting to know other parents and caregivers, connecting with the school, connecting with the community. And Brian's going to talk about in a few minutes a really great opportunity to engage with the community. And actually, it's a way to kind of connect on all these levels, right, Brian? So before Brian comes up, one of our resources that you might be interested is parentupvermont.org, a terrific resource. And it doesn't just mean if you're a parent of a middle school or a high schooler. This is something, and talking about substances and substance prevention with youth at a very early age is something that's possible. Jessica Bickford wrote a great blog last year that you can find on our website just about, it's never too early to have age-appropriate conversations with youth. And so I encourage folks to check this website out. Very useful. And so now the main part of what we want to share, the main resource we're sharing tonight is about the Live Your Why Passport Edition. Little bit of background, because Lamoille North was involved in the beginning of this project, when COVID hit, we knew that mental health, and we were hearing how much mental health was a real challenge in our community, especially for our youth. So we went straight to thinking about what can we do. So we created this Live Your Why campaign with stickers that then there was a FDA grant that we connected with Lamoille North, that we were sharing these stickers with positive messaging around different themes related to mental health, along with activities that were going home with all of the food and the meals that families were coming to pick up during the initial part of the pandemic. This project then continued, and then when Brian came on board a year ago, already a year, really taking it to the next level of how can our youth make healthy choices? And not just about giving them activities, but how do we help them develop the skills to choose how they spend their time in a positive way? In a way, take charge of their free time in a positive way. And so Brian took the initiative, and there are so many resources related to elementary and middle and high school students. And then this project, the Passport Edition, is our newest initiative. So while we deal with the lights in the room, I'm going to invite up Brian Duda to share more about the Live Your Why Passport, and then I'll come back on the end.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you, Lamoille North and Kat, for inviting us. We really appreciate being here and sharing all that we're doing. So, like Allison said, Live Your Why, the campaign began last year, and this year is sort of the next stage of Live Your Why. And the focus is really that middle school age, the 5th to 8th graders, which includes some elementary, goes into middle. But a lot of these resources can be for the whole family. So it can include elementary and high school age, but specifically the incentive part of this, the passport itself, is going to be just for that middle school age. So a little bit of background. Before, when we were thinking of planning this initiative and writing our grant, we were thinking of what this might look like. And we do a lot of work with the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. It gives us a lot of good data. And something that we noticed that seemed really low was that 56% of middle school youth in Lamoille County strongly agree that in their community they feel like they matter to people. And so we felt that was a really low number, and it's actually decreased 6 points. So this was a 2019 point, but it decreased 6 points from the previous 2 years. And so we came up with this program to help connect youth to a variety of community organizations and resources so they can directly experience that wide array of community members and who can show that they do matter a great deal. Another point, so youth who feel connected at home and at school are as much as 66% less likely to experience health risk behaviors, the risk factors that Allison was talking about. So being connected to the school and at home and the community really reduces those risk factors. And so our plan was to create activities, provide opportunities to youth to strengthen those social connections so youth feel loved, secured, confident, valued, and empowered in their communities. All right, so this is the passport, and it looks just like a regular passport. So these are being distributed I sent them to a lot of the local libraries, and you can pick them up there. I have the whole list online, and I also gave them to the middle school, Diane Lepico, and People's Academy middle level. But let me just go to the website. So when you get your passport, there's a QR code, a website URL that brings you to our website that explains this whole initiative. So the Passport Edition is primarily for this 5th to 8th grade age. Those are the ones that can get the passport. So youth will, once they get it, they can earn stamps towards prizes for participating in local free workshops, activities, events, hosted by a variety of organizations, which I'll show down the page a little bit. And a lot of these a lot of these activities and events, they're not just for the middle school age. Some of them are, but a lot of them are also for, the whole family. So parents, caregivers, younger, older siblings can also join. So each activity focuses on one of the following skill areas. So it's building those competency skills. And those include mental health, physical health, self-expression, community connections, building resourcefulness, and volunteering. So it's really building all those protective factors and skills and connecting youth to the community at large. All right, so, as youth go to these events, so we have both some in-person events and also some virtual events. So during the in-person events, we have partners, and sometimes I'm there in person. There'll be a banner or a poster at these events, and the youth and their parent or caregiver can go up and get their passport stamped. So someone will be there to stamp their passport. And once they get a stamp in all 6 of these skill areas, then they can turn the passport in for a prize of a $30 value. So those prizes include a Vermont State Park Pass, Power Play Sports gift certificate, or an art supply kit. So we know that in COVID times, not everyone is going out into the community, so we are adapting this to include more virtual workshops and activities. So it's a little trickier getting their passport stamped physically. So instead they can fill out a form online and also, earn towards those prizes once they complete that form. So all these workshops are free, open to, many of them are for all ages. Some of them are specifically middle school age. And the calendar, which I'll show you, has all the details of the upcoming workshops. We encourage you, if you do pick one up, to register your passport. This will give you updates of upcoming events. And it also helps keep track, because we know that sometimes, especially a small passport, can get lost. So it can help us keep track of what events and what stamps you've gotten. So here's some of the pickup locations. And in addition to this, I've also given it out to some mental health and physical health providers. But this is the short list. So there's a lot of local public libraries you can get it at, some schools. And here's the calendar of events, which you can look in a monthly view, a week view, or the agenda. And if you click on the event, it gives you all the details. So this is one that's at the Morristown Centennial Library. They have a lot of great events going on. They're starting this middle school advisory board meeting, and that would be a community connection stamp. This one specifically for middle school age. But for instance, another workshop coming up, there's a holiday candle making workshop. and this is not just for fifth and eighth, it should say all ages actually, but this one's for family members, all ages, and it's really a collaboration between the River Arts and Jewish community of Greater Stowe is hosting this event. So this is one of the passport events that youth can go to, connect with their community, and the whole family can attend that. And there's some other events. Right now, you know, it's still building up, so we have a lot of community connection events coming up, but we're working on some more mental health and physical health. We have a lot of stuff planned in the works. Now is kind of a slow time, but we're really trying to pick up with future workshops, including we're going to have stress management and self-care workshop, a nutrition workshop, some opportunities for free ice skating and hikes, doing some family game nights. We're going to have a financial literacy workshop. There's some grow your own workshops, bike repair workshops, outdoor living skills, and a lot of times events, I make a connection and we have a new partner and a new event pops up. So it's, you know, if you have the passport or you just want to see what events are going on in the community, this is a great site, which I'll be updating a lot, to know what's going on in your community, events for families and youth. And here's a list of all the awesome partners who have been really instrumental in making this happen. And there's links to all their websites, and I encourage you to check out all these great resources and in the whole Lamoille Valley community. They're really excited to share this, to help out with this initiative and help middle schoolers and youth in general connect to their community. And so this all started last year with the Live Your Why page, which is on our website as well, which Allison talked about. So the Live Your Why page is a great resource. It's not working. All right, so normally this should work, but if you are on this page, which you can access through our passport or just going on our healthylamoillevalley.org website, at the top we have these tabs. So if you click on the Live Your Why page, we also have, it's a hub of resources for elementary to high school age youth. Lots of activities which youth can do at home, with their families, and even in the community. And it really helps build those protective factors. It helps them really reflect on what it is they love to do and also learn new activities, learn new skills. So unfortunately I can't share what that looks like, but I encourage you to go on the website and check that out. And that's pretty much the overview of our campaign. So I'll go back to the presentation. And yeah, Allison's going to come up and help wrap this up.
Thank you, that was so great. So I'm so excited about the Passport Edition, and I know I have a fifth grader who is excited about it as well. And I'll just make another plug. If anybody wants to become a partner or knows of a community event, please let Brian know, Brian at healthylamoillevalley.org, because we'd love to include as much as possible and really become that hub. So we really need the whole community to make sure that happens. And Brian's been doing an incredible job, deepening those relationships with partners that are current partners, but always more are welcome. So please let us know if you have other ideas or if you have an event to share. And so just to share a little bit of other ways to get involved with Healthy Lamoille Valley, we have a bunch of work groups, and you can see them here. So there's a tobacco and vaping prevention task force that I facilitate that actually we just met recently last week, but we're meeting again December 7th. If you're interested in getting connected, please do. Allison at healthylamoillevalley.org, Allison with one L and an I, since I'm not on the slide. The Lamoille Valley Coaching Collaborative, another initiative that I'm overseeing, is really exciting. And we actually have a kickoff for all youth sports volunteer coaches and other coaches. That's on this coming Monday from 5:30 to 6:30. And so that's been in the works for a couple of years, helping to help coaches see how they are protective factors, how they can help build protective factors for youth. And it's really exciting how that's taking off. We have monthly coalition meetings. That's altering a bit, but you can find out more through our newsletters. The Lamoille Area Youth Coalition. I don't, Brian, do you want to say a word about it?
Yeah, so this is a youth leadership group. It's an opportunity for kids from 6th to 12th grade, and it's ways to get involved with a lot of what we're doing, and also do a lot of peer-to-peer education, really building skills and also just contributing to their community and to their schools.
Great, and there's also a parent work group, and I know that during COVID last year, we really, or even was it the year before too, had a parent cafe, a parent group that was a relationship with Lamoille North, and the counselors and parents were able to come, and I know how important it is for parents to connect, and so this work group is also to help figure out what parents want to do as a group themselves and make that connection to other parents in the community. I know, Jessica, if you have anything to add in chat, send it our way, but we're excited about that as well. So again, we're really grateful for our partnership and to be able to share these resources with you. They're in the back. They'll be at the central office, and we look forward to connecting. And we're happy to take a question or two if people have as well.
I just want to say those upcoming events sound really cool.
Yeah.
These are really exciting.
And like Brian said, it's really for the whole community as well. So even if you don't have a middle schooler, please check that calendar. Provide information to help develop that calendar, because we're really trying to support the whole community and some hubs where people can find resources. Okay. Thank you so much.
Unless you really want to leave it, so I can watch those cool upcoming events. Give us 1 second. Ignore the man behind the curtain. I guess the person behind the curtain. Uh-oh. So you just have to be careful. Thank you so much. You can see I had to clean my desktop for everybody because I used to present and everybody was aghast at my desktop. Okay. Watch your, yeah.
So again, for people who joined us after we started, I wanted to apologize that Wendy Savory, our curriculum director, could not be here tonight. She is ill. And so the Title I portion and some of her conversation about the recovery plan will come at a later date. Deb will be doing most of this presentation. I wanted to just start by saying that at the end of last year, the Agency of Education tasked us with looking at how our students were doing, how our families were doing, how our staff was doing. And they broke out their requests in 3 domains that you'll hear about tonight. One was the social and emotional wellness domain, one was the student engagement domain, and one was the academic recovery, which is what we're calling now multi-tiered systems of supports, which has to do with universal best practices instruction for all. So we assembled a team from each school. It included some were parents in a PTA, staff, we had nurses, we had community partners, we had board members, we had parents, we had teachers, special educators come together and look at those areas, those 3 domains that I mentioned, and try to assess where the students were and the families were. And We submitted a plan to the Agency of Education based on our findings, and it was, I think, the first approved in our state. And then we had to get to work. I think that people thought, well, we're headed into this new school year, it's going to be a normal school year, and then it wasn't. This is a 3-year plan. It's a dynamic plan. We may find after the first year, and that will be interesting, we'll be putting out a report at the end of the year to see if any of those funding priorities have changed, if we need funding priorities in one area more than another. And so it's a moving target, but it's a good one. And I think it's a really good plan. And Deb Clark, our business manager, is here to talk about the plan and to take you through this PowerPoint. So thank you.
Oh, nope, I'm going to do it right from here. So thank you, Kat, and again, thank you everyone for being here. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. So as Kat covered most of this slide, many different factions or stakeholders were involved in the original recovery team. They not only focused on the 3 domains of multi-tiered systems of support, social and emotional learning and wellness, and student engagement, the state also wanted to ensure that we had safe and functioning and supportive learning environments. So there's a little bit of a facilities and IT initiatives built into a lot of the work that has to go on. So under the multi-tiered systems of supports, the recovery plan goals, as outlined, came down to supporting Tier 1 universal instruction by increasing knowledge and understanding about a structured, sorry, my mouth is dry, and balanced curriculum and how the different purposes of each component support students, to include teaching across ability levels and increasing high-quality instruction via shared leadership to build expertise and sustainability. They also want to reestablish a district MTSS team whose task will be to develop the 3-year Lamoille North plan as we move forward, and to provide a comprehensive pre-K through 12 summer program. 2021 is the first summer that we had this more comprehensive program. We will have some data in a little bit. We're still compiling a lot of the data. Our ESSER 2 funding, later on I'll talk about that, helped with this first summer. The ARP ESSER funding will help with the following 3 summers. The committee, the facilitators and the committee members, did I change my page? How come it's not moving forward? There we go. The committee came up with the priorities, or identified the following 7 priorities: to create recommendations for supporting the implementation of a literacy and math coaching facilitation model, which embeds professional learning on the effectiveness of coaching, the use of professional learning communities, and proficiency-based learning. Increase the effective use of data to inform instruction. Expand the structures of problem-solving teams, progress monitoring, and overall EST systems. Can you expand on what's EST? Education Support Team Systems. Create an LNSU multi-tiered system of support handbook. Provide recommendations for strengthening the pre-K 12 local comprehensive assessment system. Review data from the K through 12 21 summer program to establish the needs for the 22 program. And provide recommendations for school schedules that support intervention opportunities and enrichment for every student without loss of direct core instruction time. Under social and emotional learning and wellness, the recovery plan goal was to create, implement, and maintain a coordinated district-wide SEL health wellness system to include providing guidance, support, and interventions for all students in each school and community. The facilitators and community members identified 3 priorities: recommend plan for completing the school health index in each school, as well as use of other data to assist in the development of an LNSU SEL guide, social emotional learning guide. Develop an LNSU SEL guide and research and recommend available programs to assist in the implementation of the SEL guide. Under restorative trauma-informed practices, which is sort of a subset of the social and emotional learning, the recovery plan goals were to help students better deal with conflict and improve school culture. A new 3-year plan is needed in the areas of trauma-informed and restorative practices, as well as approaches to healthy school climate and day-to-day practices and procedures. The facilitators and committee members developed the following 3 priorities, or identified them. Develop a new Lamoille North 3-year plan to include trauma-informed practices, improving culture, climate, and social skills, and increasing understanding and importance of diversity and inclusion. Access professional training and coaching needs and assess professional training and coaching needs and determine opportunities to be offered. And then develop a restorative practices, trauma-informed practices toolkit and make recommendations for school handbook updates. Did I miss one? I'm sorry. Under student engagement and universal screener and referral, the recovery plan goals were to assist families in meeting their basic needs. Home-to-school connections will be strengthened in order to help students navigate school, home, and community life. Provide substance use education, prevention, and counseling to students and families. Create consistent methods for tracking, analyzing, and responding to attendance concerns through an equity lens, resulting in decreased absenteeism, as well as improving the responsiveness and communication with families with barriers to include a more robust referral and wraparound system. The committee identified the following priorities: to make recommendations for universal screeners and their implementation. In collaboration with our community partners, strengthen the LNSU referral process for attendancy or truancy, mental health, and substance use issues. Make recommendations for ongoing training on recognizing the signs of mental health crisis, and create consistent methods in the attendance data systems and procedures to include recommendations for data tracking, analyzing, and responding to attendance concerns, with a focus on historically marginalized populations. I'm going to stop here for a second and see if there was anything on the... Does anybody have any questions so far? We went through a lot of the programmatic side, and I think Kat can address some of it.
So I would say something.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a fairly unique position in that we can capitalize on our relationships with our community partners because we talk to them daily. So that would be Healthy Lamoille Valley, Lamoille Restorative Center, Footbrook Farm, Lamoille County Mental Health. And we've been able to look at bringing more of those supports into all of our schools. I would say that before now, or in previous years, our bigger schools or our campus would have clinicians on site. We are now deploying resources to all of our schools because everyone has needs. Some of these needs we're still trying to assess. I mean, it's sort of a different year. It's actually a more complicated year than it was the year before. We have all of our students back, which is wonderful. Re-engaging students also means re-engaging their families. And so our work with our partners and our board and our administration and our employees is largely centered on how to bring our families and our students in and having just real conversations. So our time is largely spent on those relationships. And I think that we have to start there before we can implement, here's our piece on academic rigor. That is very important, but it has to start with the relationship building with our families and our communities in a different way. So that's what I would say about that.
And the purpose of these public forums and community forums is so that we can get input. This is an opportunity for people to just give us their ideas, their concerns, ask questions. And it is all listened to, and it's part of this. Like Kat said early on, this is a dynamic situation. And these funds give us 3 years to work and be flexible. We have a significant amount, as you can see. So the American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Plan, was from Thursday, March 11th. The American Rescue Plan, ARP, was signed into law. It was an unprecedented $1.9 trillion package of assistance measures, including $122 billion for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. Funds are being provided to state educational agencies. So all the funds flow through the Agency of Education to the schools. And then the school districts receive that to help safely reopen and sustain the safe operation of schools and address the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the nation's students, which is what we just talked about before. A lot of work went into developing, recognizing, understanding the goals that were outlined in the 3 domains and coming up with priorities in order to achieve those goals. And also understanding that those goals are dynamic. The state of Vermont received a total of $285,164,000. Of that, $256,647,000 is going to be released to the schools. Of that, Lamoille North Supervisory Union has $5,090,000 to work with. Based on the initiatives and priorities identified, the budget strategies to date for the $5 million is MTSS, the multi-tier system of supports, is about 39%, 39.5%, with 88% of that to human resources, meaning specialized personnel to focus on those areas. $200,000 is the student database. We talked a lot about data and collecting data and using data accurately to help inform how the instruction is going and where the students are falling. And then $32,000 for classroom libraries, just so the kids don't have to constantly be moving around. That's part of the location safety. Social emotional learning is another 28.5% with a $1.446 million, all of it to specialized personnel. And that can be personnel who are employees or contracted service providers or contracting with our partner agencies to help us. Engagement, another $369,000, 7%. Again, human resources. And I'm using human resources as a big term. It really means getting specialized individuals. Our teachers are in the classroom teaching. We need people who can help us focus on these goals and priorities.
As an example, our homeschool coordinator, we have those positions in several schools, and they really work with the families that are hard to reach in one way or another, whether it's the school or the families. We have people devoted to that. Our student engagement specialist does home visits. I do home visits. We do whatever we need to do to try to bring the students who are not as comfortable attending school for whatever reason, trying to bring them back into our system. The summer programs.
So ARP ESSER is going to help fund the 22 through 24 summer programs. ESSER 2 helped fund our first big summer. We had hundreds of students who participated. Yep, every campus. Every school, every site, including the middle school, high school, had some sort of summer activities going on. It was totally free to all families. It cost us about $170,000 of ESSER II. It was fabulous that we were able to do this. And we're looking forward to doing it for the next few summers. It'll help and beyond. It's helping to re-engage the students, get them off Zoom and back out. And then we've got, almost 1% dedicated to some facilities. Again, it's human resources, meaning if we have to hire a contracted services to make sure we're getting the floors cleaned and the surfaces wiped down, and technology supports. We're looking for additional individuals, again, to help support the kids and teachers as more and more technology over the last, basically since March of 2020, has been brought into our systems and devices available for our students to take home. It's labor intensive to keep track of that and make sure the kids are safe with the devices that we are issuing, as well as making sure they're providing learning opportunities. Come on, change page, there we go. Now to look at the budget strategies sort of by a type, human resources is by far the largest part at 80%. This is, Kat touched on it, it's engagement specialists, home to school coordinators, liaisons, multi-tiered systems of support coordinator who has been working diligently guiding us, a DEI coordinator who has also been working very hard with our teams, math and literacy interventionists, instructor coaches, behavior and student support specialists, guidance counselors in our schools, and additional facilities and IT staffing. And then the summer program we talked about at about 15% is primarily staffing, supplies, and fees for the field trips and the parks and the museums and the transportation that the kids will benefit from. Now it clicked, it worried. Then we've got the student data warehouse. This is going to provide timely student progress data to inform and support the multi-tiered system of support work that we're doing. And then some classroom libraries and curriculum materials, again, to help support. And that is our budget.
Do you want to give Wendy's email to people if they have questions? Because she can answer specific questions. So Wendy Savory, as I mentioned, could not be here tonight. She is a wonderful resource for information, and I know that sometimes people think of questions after the fact. We'd like people to be able to email those questions to Wendy. And while Deb is thinking about putting it up there, I will tell you it's
automatically to the transportation page.
It's WSavery, SAVERY, at LNSD.org.
So on the curriculum page of the LNSU website, I have a long roundabout way to get there, but I have to follow my things because I'm an accountant. I've got steps. But you can get her number and her email address. And certainly on the program side, definitely send your questions along. You can also send them to me, dclark@lnsd.org. I will get them to the right individual. Michelle, I know her email address is on the website. You can call the central office. We will do everything we can to, again, record your comments, questions, ideas, concerns. This is a community-based effort, and stakeholder involvement is very, very important to us in this effort.
And I would go back to something Deb said earlier. I can't stress enough how dynamic a plan this is, because needs change. It's like if you work with children and you work with behavior plans, they're in some ways not so meaningful because behaviors change, needs change, things change, the narrative changes. So in the same way, our priority areas may change based on what we hear from the community what we see in the schools as needs, and those needs are making themselves be known daily. And so this is a moving target, and we want to hear from people.
Are there any questions about our professor or?
I just want to make a comment that the summer school, not only is it
And it just kind of needs to be right in front of you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the summer programs not only are good for re-engaging kids, but I know from a personal level that for students that have some learning difficulties, it keeps them from losing what they got that year, and it keeps them on a level so when they come back the next year, they can start where they were and not fall behind.
Great, thank you. Is there anything happening in chat?
You know, another thing that I would say, because I look at data every day and I think about how this year is similar or different and how this week is similar or different, I have had more parent conversations in person and on the phone this year than I have in the past 3 years. So that is an opportunity for huge engagement. And it's clear that families really, really, really care about what's happening in their schools and want to really partner with us. They're great conversations. We have a community advisory group now that meets monthly, and that group is made up of people from every single one of our communities. And you know, sometimes hearing from them, we hear things that we would not have heard otherwise. And it's becoming a really healthy and beautiful partnership. So I am embracing this year and looking forward to hearing more from people and answering questions or having suggestions given that we hadn't thought of that we might be able to put into place.
This page has quite a bit of information on it as well. It's what? Going to make people seasick? Thumbing up. Oh, sorry. I'll do it quick. Maybe quick. There we go. Well, thank you. And I hope you all have a lovely evening. Thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate it.